Hickok 45 here, and
John.
John. Welcome to the compound. We wanted to do a video for all the new shooters out there and gun owners. We feel almost obligated. We sort of shoot a lot, and we post a lot of shooting videos, and we try to encourage people to get into the hobby and to buy firearms and enjoy it, maybe even carry one. So it sounds scary, right? And we know a lot of you recently with this, whatever it is that's going around, have decided to buy a gun. And I've heard numbers like 75% of all the gun buyers lately are first-time owners and that kind of thing. So I just been thinking about that. And I told John, we need to talk to these people, and maybe we can help them a little bit. Maybe we can't, but we've had a lot of experience in this area, and so we thought that maybe we could, because there's probably some things you think you know that you don't know. I'm still there on a lot of things, but Mark Twain said that it's not what you, how do you say it? What we know is not what gets us into trouble. It's what we know for sure that ain't so.
Which brings it to a point I'd like to say is that some of these new gun buyers are not necessarily brand new gun owners. There's a lot of people out there who are not firearms enthusiasts, maybe don't care about guns, could even be anti-gun, that own firearms, and it's like something they got from their grandfather, some .22 pistol or a shotgun or a hunting rifle when they used to hunt when they were a kid. A lot of people that aren't into guns have some sort of gun around, and so there's a lot of those people who are getting more serious about guns for self-defense, and they're going out and buying like more modern handguns or rifles or shotguns, right. And those people in a lot of ways are new gun buyers, even though they already owned a gun.
Yeah.
And some of them may, like the Mark Twain quote, may think that they know guns because they have one in their closet for 20 years
exactly.
collecting dust.
They've got a double-barrel shotgun, right. So they know about an AR-15.
Right, and so I think those people fall into this too. It's not just brand new gun owners. It's anyone who is kind of like, never been big into guns, and they decide they're going to buy a gun and actually use it and shoot it. And
yeah, good point. There's something new in their life, right? There's something new. There's a new firearm that maybe you're not familiar with.
Right.
That happens around here quite often, doesn't it? I mean, think about how many times even though we're pretty experienced, we get a firearm in that people have requested to review, and we don't even know how to break it down. It's just a new
right.
thing. Yeah. So we understand. I find myself being ignorant all the time. Not to imply you are, but anyway. So if nothing else, we can't in one sitting, of course, try to convey all of our vast knowledge about firearms, and but what we can do is maybe at least give you some of the questions you should be asking. Just point some things out, maybe a few hints and recommendations maybe on some things that we know are true and are pretty much universal, so you can get some of that maybe across, hopefully. Hopefully this will be of some use to it. We're both bad about rambling. That's why I have some notes today. So if we ramble too much, we'll just edit that part out. If we get to talking about that cloud over there, so if you're familiar with the videos, you know what I'm talking about, right?
I think that cloud carries the virus. So
I think it's bringing it.
That's how it's transmitted.
Well, that's one reason we wanted to go ahead and do this, right?
Yeah, before the internet, while the internet is still up, and a lot of us are still alive at this point, so I think this is a good time to. Also, in all seriousness, if you, like a lot of the people watching this are not probably first-time gun owners, we hope some of them come in and learn something, get something out of the video, like Dad said. But if you know someone in your life, I've had lots of people that I know in my life that are not part of the gun world reach out to me asking me questions about guns or ammo or different things. So if you have those people in your life, this might be a good video to show them. So.
Yeah, if we say anything of use, you never know. We might occasionally make a mistake.
Yeah, if we ever actually get to the video.
Right. And we're going to do that. And before we do, I want to thank the people that make this possible. Speaking of a busy time in the firearms world, everybody that's in a business related to that is slammed right now. We appreciate the support from budsgunshop.com, from Federal Premium, SDI.edu, Sonoran Desert Institute. You can take online courses there. Great time for that, isn't it? And gunsmithing and different things. We get assistance from APMEX, the precious metal dealer, American Precious Metal Exchange, Ballistol, Talon Grips, It seems like everybody associated with the gun business right now just is swamped, and it's a good thing. Speaking of that, I had an email, you may have seen it, the posting I made about Bud's Gun Shop. They're frustrated because they can't answer all the emails. They can take the orders and get guns out, even though it's slower than normally they ship them. But people are calling and emailing. They don't have this massive staff to handle it, and I'm sure almost every company associated with the firearms business, is facing that same challenge. So be aware of that and be patient with anybody these days.
Right.
So,
just like we see in the grocery stores, understand basic economics. The demand, these stores and companies are set up for the demand, the typical demand, and now the demand is doubled or tripled or quadrupled, and they're going to build new factories in a day and hire 3 times as many employees. So they're all struggling right
people
now.
who've ever been in business or know anybody that understand that. I mean, you could have an army of people just twiddling their thumbs, just in case something like this happened, but then everything would cost 10 times what it does, right? So, to the topic, where is your gun that you just bought? That's my question. What did you buy? A shotgun, maybe an AR-15, some other kind of rifle? Did you buy a handgun? And where is it right now? Think about where it is. Is it loaded? Is there a round in the chamber? Is it in a holster? Is it in a safe? Is it in a big gun safe? Is it apart? Is it broken down? Is it in your car? Is it on your person? If you're relatively new to firearms and to handguns specifically, then that's kind of a big issue, isn't it? So we need to ask ourselves, is one of the points I wanted to make, is if you're not familiar with firearms yet, and as John pointed out, some of you are, but you just bought a different gun, maybe you never had an AR-15 or a Glock or an M&P or something, that's a little different. But if you're totally new to firearms, they can be a snake, rattlesnake. You want to treat them with an immense amount of respect, and if you do, you have a very enjoyable lifelong hobby. You really, look how old I am, I shoot almost every day, thoroughly enjoy it still. And, if you keep yourself alive and, you respect that thing, it's great. Right, John?
Right. Safety is number one because, you're purchasing this gun. I think right now, during these kinds of times, your defense is what's on your mind. Part of that defense is also against yourself and and the people that you care about. So guns are one of those things that they're very, very predictable, unlike other dangerous items, like cars that we use every day. They're very predictable if you follow very basic rules. You never point the muzzle, the barrel, the gun at anything that you're not willing to destroy. That's one of the big rules. You pretend like there's a laser beam shooting out the end of the barrel. Treat all guns as if they are loaded. That is one that there's a little bit of a caveat to, because if you do have the gun pointed in a safe direction, it's okay to dry fire, where you wouldn't just shoot a hole in your floor. You know what I mean? Obviously, so that one should be taken with just a slight grain of salt, but it's a good rule of thumb. Always treat all guns as if they are loaded. And then when you have your hand on a firearm, whether it's loaded or not, always keep your fingers straight until you are sure that you are ready to pull the trigger, and always be aware of the condition of the firearm in the sense of, does it have a round in the chamber? Does it have a loaded magazine? Is it totally empty? You need to be, if you're not familiar with guns, if it's your first gun, that is the first step. Understanding the gun, understanding everything about it in order to keep it safe for yourself and for the people around you.
Absolutely. And then with John's going through Jeff Cooper's 4 rules of gun safety, and there's various versions of that. They're all similar. And the fourth one is, of course, be aware of your target and what's behind it. Be sure of your target and what's behind it. And if you observe all those rules, then if you slip up sometime, if you messed with firearms your entire life, it will probably happen, then the other 3 rules will usually save you. It's that simple. Like if I'm looking at my firearm right here and I did pull the trigger by accident, I've got it pointed in the safe direction. So it's just, you never want to be cavalier about safety. And what we do in the firearms world, the quickest way for you to be considered a mall ninja, a newbie, a novice, which maybe you are, but I mean in a negative way, someone people don't want to be around maybe, is to not exercise extreme safety. Because you're not just doing that for yourself and your family, you're doing it when you're on a shooting range, or there's anybody else around, to demonstrate to them.
Right.
Okay?
And don't put someone in a position where they've got to be a bad guy. Like some of the most awkward situations you can find yourself in your life are gun safety violations. Someone that you would never expect in a million years to yell at you will yell at you.
Yes.
If you point a gun at them.
Yeah.
And don't put them in that situation, because no one wants to do that. No adult man wants to have to treat another adult man like a child.
Yeah.
But when it comes to gun safety, you have to take those kind of things seriously. So don't make a it was a family-friendly way of saying that. Just don't make an idiot out of yourself.
Yeah.
And follow those rules of gun safety. That's number one. If you do nothing else with your gun, be safe with it and be aware of how to be safe with it and use it responsibly.
Yes, because you will get embarrassed somewhere at a range or wherever by somebody putting you in your place about that. And they may be a very calm, laid-back person, but when it comes to gun safety, they're going to do it, okay? Because it can be a matter of life and death. And again, I use that word exaggerate. You really do. I know I'm kind of a laid-back guy, and I'm not out there. I don't wear flashy clothes, and I don't exaggerate, my image or existence and that sort of thing. But gun safety is one thing. When I pull this Glock out, I exaggerate that straight finger, okay? I exaggerate it, and you're doing that for the people around you and yourself, all right? It's just so important. If you want to be a part of the firearms culture, community, and be respected, exaggerate the safety aspects. This firearm right here, while I have it out, for example, this is another key point with gun safety. Many people have bought, maybe they didn't own an automatic, a semi-automatic pistol or shotgun rifle or whatever, and it doesn't have to be semi-automatic, it could be a pump shotgun, an AR-15 or anything. There's a hidden bullet, I think I have it in my pocket. There's a hidden bullet that can get you or somebody else, and which one is that? It's not these in the magazine. It's not those. It's the one that could be in the chamber right now. I cannot tell. Now, with some firearms you can tell, and there's a chamber indicator and that sort of thing. But you don't know, generally speaking, for sure. Could be an empty case, could be a live round. It's that one in the chamber that you forget about, or whatever the situation might be, that can be so dangerous.
And also understand what type of firearm you have and the specific safety precautions or things you have to be aware of that go with it. Like an extreme example that probably zero new gun buyers would run into, but as an extreme example, like an open bolt firearm, I could probably guarantee you there are no open bolt firearms purchased by a brand new gun owner, because they're very very expensive. But for example, an open bolt, it's the opposite. If the bolt is closed, then it's safe and it can't fire. And if the bolt is locked to the rear and you have a loaded magazine, it's hot, it's ready to go. You pull that trigger and it fires.
Yeah.
So that's the opposite of what most semi-automatics would be. That's an extreme example most of you wouldn't run into, but be aware each gun is different. Revolvers, semi-automatic pistols, shotguns, so know your gun. Whatever gun you chose to buy as your first gun or first few guns, if you're new, make sure you understand them and how they work specifically, as well as applying those other general safety rules that we talked about.
Exactly, yeah, because you could apply a lot of safety rules, but this firearm is real quirky.
Right.
It's different.
And use the internet. The internet, like I said, the internet is open live right now, and for the foreseeable future,
Yeah.
I think it will be. Use the internet. That's what you're doing right now. Go research your gun. Make sure you understand the caliber it uses, everything you need to be safe about it. That is number one. Before you think about defending your own life against someone else, you've got to make sure that you are safe with your gun. That is the most important thing.
Yeah, by far. Yeah, I was going to mention that. There's a lot of information online now, so you can become almost an expert, right, in anything except brain surgery. And I've even tried that. But I was going to mention that, and of course, we make a lot of videos, and so do other people. You can search around in YouTube and find videos on any aspect of gun safety, We have them on squib loads, which is a serious issue, muzzle discipline. I was going to mention a couple that round in the chamber. We have several. There's one. Oh yeah, we have a series called How Not To. Some of them are, I don't know, more applicable to you than others, but then some of them you might find useful. And everybody who does videos, firearms videos, well, not everybody, but a great number of people have something on safety. And then what we try to do is demonstrate safety as we're doing the videos. And muzzle discipline is so important. Finger discipline, trigger finger discipline. I'm sure if you went through all 1,800 videos, you could find somewhere we weren't as 100% like we should have. But one of the things that, and like when I pulled this out, for presentation's sake, and of course I have 40 acres here, I know what I'm doing, most of the time, right? But so normally when we're on the range, I'm not going to be pointing the gun. It's going to be pointed at the hill back there. It's not even going to be pointed up in the air like that. But we do violate some of that, I guess you could say, not when they're hot, but just because we are demonstrating firearms, on a daily basis. But just be sure you really respect this thing, and whether it's really loaded or not, and you have checked. I took a course, and a couple of people treat this differently, but when you're checking to see if it's loaded, if you just glance at it, you might miss it. You really might. You need to open that thing up, and you need to look. And one course I was in, he said, look at it, and then look away, then look back again. And I thought that was good. And then also you stick your finger in there. Some recommend that. I know it sounds like it's overboard, right. But anyway, you can't be too safe.
Absolutely, and have that same respect for the trigger on your firearm, the same way you do for the steering wheel on your car when you're driving down a 2-lane highway. You got other cars coming the other direction constantly, and just a slight correction, it could mean death and catastrophic life changes for lots of people involved. And you gotta, it's that little balancing act that we do every day. It's no different than the trigger on a gun. You have to reinforce, the severity of what you're doing and what you have, and make sure you're safe with it. And once you've done that for a while, you don't ever want to relax, but it does become, second nature. Yeah. Like if I was holding a gun right here, and Dad was like, "What's that marking on the other side of the gun?" Like without even thinking about it, I'd be like, "Oh, it's let's see, right there it says this." Like I wouldn't even think about it. I would just do it and not even, it wouldn't even cross my mind what I was doing, because I've handled guns so much. So eventually if it seems overwhelming to you, it gets much easier.
It really does, and it becomes second nature. Like John said, if you pretend there's a laser beam coming out of that muzzle and it cuts, maybe it doesn't cut anything else, but it cuts flesh. Okay, anything that's flesh, it'll kill it, even if it's behind a door or wall. That gets you through a lot of that. It's a good thing to keep in mind, just a laser beam. And I was going to mention that we have a video on that. We call it muzzle discipline, I think it is. And we try to simulate the laser beam coming out of the barrel of the firearm. And whenever there's a lot of activity on that video, and I notice comments on there, and people are always saying, "Man, I was ducking and diving behind my computer when you did that," because they're not used to seeing us do that. I was slinging the muzzle around to demonstrate how you don't want to do it. Yeah, it was a fake gun, airsoft. And I was pointing at the camera, which would have been at John, and I think I even scratched my head with a gun in my hand, didn't I? I did some really bad things just before I even started the video, just to make the point. And a lot of people who know guns, they're like, "Whoa, what's he doing?" And even somewhere in the video, if you happen to watch it, there's a bug that flies by, and later in the video, and it looks like it actually came out the barrel of the gun. So it's kind of a weird coincidence. Anyway. Now, we've talked a lot about the safety. There's some other things regarding that, and that is making sure you have the right ammo for the gun you have. If you're really new to that firearm or firearms in general, that can be a little bit of a jungle sometimes. Again, know that you don't know everything. Does that 9mm pistol you bought use plus P ammo? Is it rated for that? If it's 9mm, that doesn't mean you can just fire anything that says 9 on it. Necessarily. If it's a 45, it doesn't mean you can put 45 ACP, 45 long Colt, 45 70. I still get questions from people about those things. We have a video, I think, use the right ammo. So we've tried to answer a lot of these things, and we can't answer everything in this video. We just want to kind of raise the questions in your mind that maybe you'll think, oh, well, I thought I knew that, but maybe I don't. That's one of the reasons we wanted to do this, because it's a fairly complex
Right.
area.
Because, I
isn't it?
mean, you know,
Yeah.
ammo is not like socks. You can't just put on something that are a
Yeah.
little bit smaller and it work. I mean, it has to be the exact ammo that
Like
gun is
shotguns.
designed
Tell
for.
them about shotgun ammo. You know, length and all that.
Oh yeah, well yeah. I mean, you got mini shells and 3-inch shells and 2 3/4, and some guns will take them all, and some only certain ones. You know, 12 gauge, and you got 28 gauge and 20 gauge, and all these different. You know, you got to be, again. That was back to what I was saying earlier about know your gun.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to use the internet as a tool. There are some guns that will fire calibers that it doesn't advertise on the gun that it can fire, but there's
Yeah.
not a ton of those, and don't assume that. You know, make sure you do your research.
Yeah, but and you can actually chamber sometimes the wrong ammo. It will
Right.
fit in the chamber. You know,
Exactly.
that's a scary thing. So you just don't take any chances, and be smart, be meticulous to a certain, be a little bit nerdy about it. You make really, really certain that you understand everything about this firearm. You know, go through check it 20 times and make sure it's unloaded.
Yeah.
Learn how to field strip it, take it apart. You don't have to take every little screw out or piece of it necessarily, especially early on, but just learn how to field strip it and get very familiar with how it operates, and make sure you're using the right ammo, you got the right magazines, and you're observing safety, and you'll really enjoy it. And learn how to lube it properly and where to lube it. And learn about, there's techniques and things, you know, that we don't go into too much today, but when you go out and shoot the thing, if you haven't yet, you know, it's real easy to limp wrist a handgun sometimes, a semi-automatic pistol. If it's malfunctioning on you, it could be you just don't have a sturdy enough grip on it, things
Right.
like that too.
I don't know if you had this written down or not, but I think one really important aspect I just thought about when it comes to safety, a lot of people, these new gun buyers that we're seeing at times like this, and others, some of them are probably planning on getting their carrier permit, but a lot of them I think are just planning on using the gun to defend themselves in their home.
Yeah.
And of course, carrying a gun out in public is like a whole other thing. But even in your home, you might think of that as being pretty simple. People who don't understand guns don't sometimes realize how hard bullets are to stop. Most bullets will go through a lot of stuff, and it's something you need to think about. If you're having to defend your life in your home, you live in an apartment, you live in a crowded area, you've got kids in different rooms and all these kinds of things. Like, you know, you need to think about that. If you're using a 308 rifle for home defense, you know, maybe go through 18 walls and your neighbor's truck. You know, so you
really.
need to be aware of those kinds of things. One reason some people will knock it, but some people recommend using birdshot loads in a shotgun.
Controversial topic, but yeah.
Right, because at close range, it all stays together. It's a pretty solid chunk of lead coming down the pipe at a fast speed,
Yeah.
but then at a little bit longer distance, it kind of opens up, loses a little bit of energy, and it's less likely to maybe just go through 18 walls. So that's something to think about. You know, penetration there's lots of videos out there about that, but it's something you need to at least be aware of, that walls in houses, especially these days, are not very strong, and most rounds, even small calibers, will go right through them without any trouble.
Oh yeah, and that's a myth that I think we have a video or two on that. You know, it's a shotgun across the room. It's going to spread about like that. You know, so you've seen a lot of westerns. You think that's not true, but it is. The thing I should have mentioned earlier on, I guess if I didn't, is if you can get training early on. Okay, that's something maybe you could do. You know, ammo seems to be in short supply right now, but get some training. If it's a basic safety class at the local gun shop, or it's someone who just does training classes, or maybe you do think you want to carry it. Get into a carry class, a permit class. That's not real training, but it's a first level familiarization. So, and you would enjoy it. You would enjoy it. We don't want to scare you about this firearm you bought. There are probably a few people watching who, whenever you're watching, today for us is March 23rd, right? It's probably March 23rd for you too. But we'll post this like tomorrow probably. So you're seeing this almost real time. everybody's really busy and everybody's swamped, I realize, but spend the time studying that firearm, and maybe if you can get any kind of class, you would enjoy that, and learning about your gun. Don't let, you may have experienced this in gun shops. These days it's not as common, but sometimes you get intimidated by people working in gun shops, and they treat you like you're ignorant or you're stupid or something. You know, sometimes you get a little of that. I know, even still today. But it's just really fun learning about the firearm. Most trainers and most people who are involved in that, they're going to take time with you, and they want you to become a great shot and a safe firearms user. And it's just a wonderful endeavor.
And also be aware of the phony experts out there. And this, by all means, is not me saying that we are necessarily experts.
No, we're not trainers.
But there's a lot of people out there who will realize that like their knowledge of guns, because you don't know anything, their knowledge of guns is like a million times beyond yours because you don't know anything. But yet they really don't know anything in the grand scheme of things, and they can seem like they do. Because I've run into people at gun shops a lot of the time that don't realize I've been shooting my whole life, and they'll say stuff that's like just wildly inaccurate. I mean, not even a little bit wrong, just wildly wrong.
Yeah.
And you've always got that guy in your family that's like the gun guy, and it could be someone like Dad, or it could be someone who just kind of thinks they know some stuff and doesn't really. So you never.
I think I know some stuff.
Again, the internet is your friend.
Yeah. And there are some idiots on the internet, right?
Right, but the internet, at least you're not stuck with like one guy.
Right, you can click out.
Yeah, you can get a nice sampling of different opinions.
You can get a feel. You can look through the comments if you're on YouTube and kind of get an idea of what sort of audience are watching. You know, these people, and you can learn a lot. You know, forums and comments about firearms. So you can get a lot of help online. Take a class if you possibly can. Whatever it is, just start the learning process, and do not assume you know everything about that firearm. Man, they can be complex. As many as we review and take apart. I mean, we got one now, that Tavor shotgun, the TS-12. I got that there. I had no idea how to break it down. You know, we had to figure that out, and everything else. It's just like a new item, totally, to us. Just like you might have a Glock 19 or something that's very common, and you have no idea how to break it apart. You know, once you mess with these kinds of things just a little bit, you get the the knack. You take the barrel out, and it's just so simple. And but anyway, get familiar, whether it's a handgun you bought, a shotgun, a rifle, or just whatever.
Right. And aside from the safety stuff, take care of it. Make sure it's got oil on it. Get some kind of firearms oriented lubricant. And make sure you keep it from rusting away on you if it's the gun has a lot of metal on it, and
it'll last forever.
Right, and you've also got the which we didn't touch on, the child safety aspect. If you got kids in your home, that's a whole nother thing. You've got to make sure that you got it locked up and it's never available, to anyone underage, without you being right there with them if you know what you're doing. So all that stuff is very important too. There's a lot to know. If we're buying a gun is one of those things. It's a right. It is our right in America, which is why we like to have as little steps in the way of people that are of age getting a firearm as possible, because it is your right to do so. But that doesn't mean that there's not a lot of things you should know.
A lot of responsibility
before you buy a gun, or before you do anything with it other than just have it in a box in your house. So
yeah, it's a commitment. It really is. It's like if I buy a chainsaw, which I have. You can't just go willy-nilly. I think I'll get a chainsaw. I might need to cut something. You need to figure that thing out. You end up losing a hand, right? Or driving a car, or anything. Or having a swimming pool put in your backyard. There's that danger of somebody drowning in it. So driving is a good analogy. Just you have to be so focused on it, and I mean, you can handle it. You can handle it. And if you are really a new firearms owner, and you prowl around the internet, firearms ownership has become extremely mainstream. Yeah, mainstream. It's become, guns on my brain, but it is. It's mainstream. I mean, it's almost everybody you run into has a firearm and is shooting and are training, and so you're going to run into people that are pretty smart, people that are of average intelligence, people who seem to know something, think they know something, like John was saying, but they don't. They give you bad. It's just like anybody else you run into, whether it's car owners, bicycle owners, or firearms owners. There's a wide range of folks, and so you can navigate it, and you can learn once you need to learn.
Everyone watching, I guarantee you, every single person watching, unless you're really young or something, knows a lot about something.
Yeah.
If it's not guns, there's something. You're into something where it's like, old cars or, video games or whatever it is. You know a lot about something, and you're part of some kind of little community. So any dynamics of that, you can kind of assume all that's going to be present with guns, because people are just people. It's what I mean. It's all kind of the same at the end of the day. So just be aware of that.
That is so true. That is so true. And it gives you insight into, you have spent some time learning about whether it's maybe I don't know, model cars or whatever it might be. And so you know the questions to ask about that. And just like if I were deciding today to get into something I've never been into, that I know nothing about, building rocket ships or something, I don't know anything about it, but I would know some of the questions to ask, and I would, like John was saying, I would know who to listen to, who would seem credible and who would not.
It's like when I first got into stand-up comedy, that was like a brand new thing. And there was people that I remember giving me advice early on that I held in a high regard. Then once I got more experience, I realized, like, oh, they were an idiot.
That's right.
That was a crazy person that I talked to.
That's right.
So it's like everything is the same. Everything is like that.
It is, and again, we welcome you to the fold. We really do, and you can never emphasize safety too much. Hopefully, this is of some value to our regular viewers who have 20 guns or 40 firearms or whatever, and maybe they can share it if there's anything in here useful at all. We have a lot of experience with firearms. We couldn't share it all in this video, but we wanted to at least...
it's kind of a pep talk.
Yeah, pep talk. Give you some of the questions and things you need to think about. And you're just very welcome. And you will... We didn't talk about the Second Amendment much, but, again, it is our right to own firearms. And you will see a lot of people on the internet talking about the Second Amendment with good reason. So if you bought your first firearm, you never have owned one, you're kind of part of that movement.
And that will come, It may not be something you're interested in right now, but over time, once you learn more about guns and you get more into it, I think
you get a little more involved in gun rights.
You'll start to kind of get it. You'll start to understand why people take that aspect so seriously.
Especially when you hear a politician in about 2 months talking about taking that gun you just bought away from you, because you're not smart enough to have it and be safe with it, right?
So I think like the big takeaways, the bottom line that we took 17 hours to explain are, first of all, safety is number one. Before, like I said, before you even think about defending your life from an attacker, safety for yourself and the people around you, then you can start to think about the use of the gun. Yeah. So safety to yourself and those around you, then the use of the gun, and then how to be safe with it when you're defending your life or just shooting it on the range, putting the right ammo in it, like knowing about your gun, use the internet as a tool.
Yes. And again, the laws we talked about. Yeah. Be sure you're aware of the laws. You're not Rambo. I'm not Rambo. We're not cops, probably. It's strictly a tool if you're thinking self-defense primarily. It's just to protect ourselves as a last resort.
Of course, Rambo, threat, all he ever did was try to just avoid conflict.
That's right.
So.
Well, that's what we all try to do.
So maybe you do want to be Rambo.
But sometimes, you're right. So
that was what the whole series was about.
Yeah. So be sure you're observing the law, and you can enjoy this. I still call it a hobby. It's a lot of things, but it's a commitment. It's a hobby. It's a Second Amendment right, and it's a lot of things, but it's a lot of fun, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It is a lot of fun.
It is. We have a lot of firearms, and we thoroughly enjoy shooting it and just learning all the things. I almost envy some of these people that just bought a gun, and we'll shut up in a minute, but if they're brand new to firearms, that's kind of neat, isn't it?
It is. I don't even know what that's like. You might know more than me, because I don't even.
He was born with a firearm.
I have zero concept of what it's like to get into guns. It's never happened to me.
Yeah, he was only alive for how many hours before you owned a gun? Like 1 or 2 hours.
Right.
So
I mean, the closest thing I guess maybe was like I went through a phase where, because I grew up with guns, like once I was kind of in my adolescent years, I took them for granted a little bit because it was just like my life. And then when other people found out I knew a bunch about guns, then I was able to kind of experience. I sort of got it on a
Yeah.
different level because I realized like, oh, it is kind of a unique and rare, like cool
Yeah,
thing.
he gradually realized, hey, I guess everybody doesn't grow up on a shooting range.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess I sort of get it a little bit, but
Yeah, and by the way, you don't know who we are, you're brand new. This is John, my son, and we have about 1,800 videos. We've been doing this for about 12 years, and we have fun in videos. Some of them are mostly just for fun. A lot of them are gun reviews and just a mix of things. And yeah, in case they didn't know.
I loved your innocence of like assuming someone new would still be watching at this point.
You never know. A lot of gullible people out there, right? Now we appreciate you watching, and man, if you watch this entire video, you're committed. Okay, so welcome to the fold, and we'll shut up. I can't think of any last words.
Yeah. Well, again, like if you have someone that you know that's one of these people we're talking about, a new gun owner, think about sending them a video like maybe this one, or just or some other video that's a little bit more to the point or whatever. We're not trying to like get views on this video.
Yeah,
we don't care. We're just saying like make sure you're there for those people. Like I always say, with the Second Amendment, don't try to force it down people's throat because then you seem like you're part of some weird cult or something. It scares people off.
You are part of the cult.
Just be there when they need you. Because I mean, I had a lot of people reach out to me with this recent virus and everything, and just gave them the information. It's like I'm here. People know I'm the gun guy, so people reach out to me, and I'm there with the information. So
yeah,
that's the way to be, I think.
So we invite you to join us. We do about 3 videos a week, and go to the home channel. You can see all the recent videos. Just click on that. I do a Sunday shoot around video every Sunday morning, post it, and we spend a lot of time doing this, so you're welcome aboard, and hope this helped a little bit. Sorry we rambled so much, but it's kind of what we do. Yeah, it's our specialty, right?
Yep.
So we'll sign off and say goodbye right now. Life is good.
See ya.